What is going on, guys? You already know what time it is. It is Tuesday. Yo, listen, man, yesterday was a great Saloon session. We had some awesome guests on with NFT Bridges, Astar Degens. But listen, man, this is the crew. This is the regular crew. We got our boy Kai from Kia Finance. We have June over at Sonex. We always have a good time, man. We got some awesome things to talk about today. Going to be going down what's going on with Sonium, which is the ACS campaign, a multitude of other things coming ahead from these projects as well. This is definitely something you're going to want to tune into and get some alpha, man. Listen, we all love a little bit of alpha. What's going on, Kai? What's up, man?
Long time to see everyone. It's good to always good to see you, and very honored to get invited on every these sessions. Nice to meet you. And we have so many news to deliver this week, and so many news to welcome this week. So yeah, it'll be a pretty huge week for Sonium and the whole ecosystem.
It is. What's going on with you, June? What's up, man?
What's up? Thanks for having me, guys. I mean, always a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to the discussions ahead.
Listen, man, you already know what's going on with Sleazy. Look at you, man. You look like you fell from the clouds. The light is just like pinging off you. Like,
yeah. It's a very sunny day. Well, actually, it's not that sunny. It's not even sunny. But yeah, in Spain, Spain, the land of sun. Although, it's always
snow there? Does it snow there at all?
Okay, so I've seen snow twice in all of my time being here, and one of those times I was back in high school, and it actually closed because there are no cars in Spain that are adapted to driving on icy road. So yeah, they literally closed school because of that. It doesn't happen. Snow just doesn't happen in Spain.
Okay. Well, what's up, Noodle? Listen, man, you as well, man. You got the light pinging. What's going on with you?
I know. Well, again, I'm in England, so this is the first time I've seen the sun in 3 years. It's actually out today, not a cloud in the sky. It's -2, but at least the sun's shining. So pros and cons.
Well, listen, no. Over here on the Jersey side, New York area, not too bad. It's a little breezy, man. So it was so bad the other day that it was breezing. My wife got paranoid, so we have like a flagpole that's up, and the pole was like, it doesn't break, it's pretty sturdy, but her paranoia was the pole was shaking bad. Like the wind was crazy to the point where it was like really blowing the trees, and but heavier, like, you know what I mean, like the bigger trees. So I ended up taking it down, but it was pretty windy. It's been windy over here. It had a little bit of rain, but not too bad. I feel like, generally speaking, the weather's been a little bit crazier, I feel, moving into like 2025. I don't know about you guys, but from when I was growing up to now, I feel like summers are different, winters are different. There's just like an entirely different vibe. I don't know, maybe a global warming, maybe something's going on. I don't know, but
there's definitely been some sort of shift. Yeah,
there has to been. It feels like
what's going on. Yeah.
So anyway, that being said, first things first, man, I wanted to get into some updates from everybody, talk a little bit about what's going on, because everybody's going to be a part of, at least on this call, it's in the ACS campaign, which is pretty much a big campaign that we're going to be running over there with Sonium and A-Star. Listen, man, there's a lot of really cool projects involved in this. It's a great opportunity to kind of bolster the ecosystem, the community, rally the troops. More and more people are getting involved every day. It is still early. It's crazy. It almost seems like yesterday, which it literally was, that Sonium launched. So now at this point, this is when it starts to scale, the growth factor on the DeFi side, on the NFT side. Slowly but surely, everybody's coming in and the ecosystem's beginning to flourish. That being said, Kai, what's going on with you guys, man? Talk to me. What's about new with Kia Finance?
Yeah, actually, we have. Do you know that we have an alpha chat on our Discord channel?
No, that's cool. Yeah, talk about it. Let's go.
Yeah, I think maybe I should. If you are not already in it, I should invite you. We give a ambassador role to active members on our Discord and who share a lot on the social, and give a preview of our Alpha League. Actually, I shared you our new design right on the Telegram chat. So
that's cool. That was really cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, we're preparing. Other than that, we're preparing really a lot, and we are giving those Alpha group our Alpha League and get some feedback and make some modification if we Catchup a good feedback. So yeah, we're preparing a whole new UI UX overhaul. I mean, many people confuse UX with UI, but UX is more larger. It's a more larger concept than the UI. So not only design, we are redesigning the whole user experience from the start. So yeah, we in order to like bring more Web2 users and even expert Web3 users, we always try to focus on enhancing the UX. So in order to do that, reducing the staffs and reducing the waiting time and such. So we're preparing three ways. First, revamping the UI itself to make it more modern and more reliable. And like you said about the indexer, right, like before, right? And like that, we are building a whole new indexer just for our DEX and the trading. So everything will be indexed on our server, and when users access to our web page, they don't have to shoot the RPC call from their front end, so it becomes really faster. So currently we are already using API on various situations, but we're still using RPC server for the user information, which is the blocker for loading. The when you access our page, it loads a lot. We're making it very speedy through the indexer, and we're also preparing a new experience through like intent-based system. This will be quite new when it goes live, so we want to keep it as alpha still. But yeah, it'll be a whole new experience. We wanted to finish this before ACS campaign, but as you know, development always takes longer than expected. And there are a lot of modifications and feedback. So yeah, we're building really hard. So hopefully we want to show this like upcoming months right after ACS. But yeah, pretty much everything's are coming up, and many things are coming up, and we're also preparing for the ACS campaign, which we'll cover later in the session maybe. So yeah, as always, a very busy week.
Yeah, listen, man, it sounds like it. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Sleazy.
just to touch on the previous point, can you explain the difference between the larger concept of UX and the small concept of UI? I mean, for those who don't know, of course, I know this, but this guy over there, he doesn't know about it. So yeah,
I'm sure
he
you
has
all
an
knows it,
explanation.
but yeah. So in layman's terms, like UI is almost not equal, but almost equal to the design, how it looks and feel. So when you access the page, oh, this looks nice. That is a UI, and when you use it, actually, the whole process, like clicking this button and it connects to the next button, and you enter something. That is the user experience, which includes not only UI but also the stream flow of your action and the response of the page and everything. So the whole thing is like enveloped into the user experience, and we want to improve that. So yep, that'd be the easiest way to explain user experience and design graphic.
So
It's
you
like
have
nice when you get on the website, you're like, oh, it looks pretty, but I have no idea what to do here. That happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we see it a lot, especially in the space in Web3 particularly. I think, a lot of people are still developing the technology and making sure everything is functional, security, all those things. So like UI design, don't get me wrong, there's some pretty nice designs in the space for sure. So you guys do the vote escrow tokenomics, right, Keo?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, tell us a little like you're implementing this model. Can you explain what vote escrow tokenomics is for people out there? Like, how you're implementing this
Yeah,
and
I'm sure this guy doesn't know about it either.
Yeah, the benefits to users. I feel like this would be something really cool.
Yeah, sure. I think we tokenomics is the hottest tokenomics these days. This was it was a niche tokenomics. It was originally brought to this space by Curve Finance when they developed their Curve token. Basically, before that, and all the emission were controlled by the centralized entity, like called team members or the foundation. So it was emission was given specifically to the pairs, and like adjustment of the emission was quite hard since it had to go through like off-chain like voting process through the governance, or they had a time lag to change specific configurations and such. So everything was quite inefficient. So what happens then is that emission is like a goal and the capital of the protocol. when emission is not given efficiently, it means your valuable capital is leaked through like some like nowhere. It's like quite vain, vanished in vain. So in order to make the use of these emission the best way, you have to control it and adjust it promptly according to the market's response. So what is the market response for the LPs? It means when there is a trading demand, the volume grows and it generates a lot of fee for LPs. That means more if the LPs are thicker and have more liquidity, the trading price impact will be lessened and more people are going to trade, since that is the hot pair. So in that case, we want to bootstrap that LP and make it thicker as a DEX. So and before the V tokenomics, centralized entity had to first recognize the hot pair and then go through some time lock or multi-sig and everything and control the emission system. But after the V tokenomics kicks in, it is automatically controlled. So that's why it is called the auto-optimizing self-optimizing DEX. So the emission is not controlled by the centralized entity manually, but is automatically controlled by the demand of the market. And when the market demand grows for certain pairs, the emission goes to the pairs better. And how do we do it? Incentive aligning with the token holders by the action of voting. So instead of trading fee goes directly to the LPs, it goes to the voter, and the voter votes to the most yield generating yield generating pairs and gets that yield. So in that way, it is financially incentive aligned with the token holders, and voters vote to the most generative pairs, and it is optimized well. So traditionally or classically, V tokenomics was first Solidly DEX was developed by Andre Cronje of the Phantom, and he made the epoch-based Solidly VE DEX, which is currently still the major Solidly or V tokenomics-based DEX. So what's the problem with that? The whole adjustments is done on weekly basis, and people basically don't live in weekly basis on their on-chain actions. Like a week is like a year on Web3. It's really long time, and market changes. Yeah, every day. If you look at Solana, like every day, hundreds or thousands of tokens are launched and vanished. And trading when you change the emission after a week, the demand of the market always vanished. So what we had to do is to make it real time. We thought 1 week is absurd, and if you miss the voting for 1 week, you miss the whole week of the reward. That is absurd. No one has enough time to vote every day, every week, without forgetting either. So in order to long-term align with our holders, we have to make it real time and make a forget and go style voting. So that's what we've done: real-time voting, real-time bribe, real-time reward for the users. So the basic concept is same. The trading fee goes to the voters, and LPers earns the emission reward from our system. But what changes, it made it a whole real-time process and made it much more efficient. It cannot be more efficient than ever. If you see the voting APR, of course, it's not live yet, so you cannot see it. But when you see APR, voting APR will be like same for every pair. That means it is optimally optimized. If some pairs APR are much higher than other pairs APR, voting APR, it means the voter didn't vote enough, because it is not arbitrary. It should be arbitraged out, and it must be arbitraged out if it is a efficient market. So what happens on real-time voting system? Every voting APR is same. So one step further, we are going to make a self-optimizer auto compounding vote. So there's two thing. You deposit voting token to the auto compounder, then we optimize the vote for you in real time. and compounded to the voting power. So your voting power keeps growing with that APR. So it has two effects, like optimize the yield or even further optimizing the yield. And second, giving a constant buying pressure for the tokens so that it could be sustainable.
When is your TGE, if you mind me? Have you set a date yet, or is it
that'll be super alpha, but it is not that far.
okay?
We have to.
You could save it. I am curious. That's cool though. That's cool. I was just curious if it was sooner or later.
Yeah, I just say it won't be that long. We were talking with the foundation regarding the to time the best time of the market for the token launch, and we have a lot of things to do before token launching, like legal things and listing things, everything. So yeah, we want to prepare. Yeah. So so the tokenomics is very important, but what also on the other hand, our whole purpose is to make this DEX sustainable even without the token emission. Token emission would be a sprinkle. It would be a fastener for the flywheel, but we want to make this run even without the emission. So that's why we're focusing on making the base APR higher, and that's what we are currently focusing on in the back. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Well, Shao, first things first. That's a great explanation. There's a lot of information in there. I know there's
there's a lot of information.
Almost 100 people watching. Obviously, guys, if this is something that is interesting to you, because to me, I think it's really cool what they've been doing over there. Go check it out. Shout out to you, Perry. Shout out to Raul. Shout out to Patty, and shout out to Orc Counter. What's up, guys? I hope everybody's having a great day. Next, what is going on, June? I know you guys are cooking some stuff over there at Sonex as well. I mean, if you want, you can give a little introduction for everybody, and then I'll probably have a couple questions for you as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just a quick intro. Sonex, we are a AI-powered DEX that's exclusively built on Sonium. Right, we try to take a simplified approach to DeFi, providing a seamless and efficient user experience, trying to drastically reduce the complexity traditionally associated with using various DeFi platforms, right? Essentially, we want to be a one-stop shop for all DeFi, think yield farming, staking, right, swaps, etc. Right, so that's a quick high-level introduction, right? I think in terms of the things we've been working on, of course, the ACS campaign is on the top of every builder's mind on the Sodium ecosystem, right? And I think these incoming incentives will definitely help to boost the ecosystem further. But I think the main question, that every protocol, including Sonex, is thinking about is how best to utilize these incentives, right? We've seen, especially in Web3, where token emissions or just incentives in general are not used very efficiently, right? And they don't actually result in more user adoption or actions from users that actually provide value to the protocol, right? And so, of course, this is something.
I was going to say, you guys were doing a couple different things with ZK coprocessors and stuff, weren't you? I was reading a little bit more in your documentation and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what's more on the privacy and security aspects, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, I think mostly still focusing on building out new features. I feel like I talk about this every week because we have such often discussions. But the AI component for us, the huge focus right now, right, in terms of being able to launch our first feature, which is what we call alpha hunting, right, which will help users identify, discover profitable opportunities and trading strategies, right, based on on-chain and off-chain market data. Right? So that's something we're super excited about.
How does the AI terminal? I saw that. I'm looking at the AI routing, the terminal function. How does that stuff? You want to give us a little bit of explanation of that as well, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love to give a technical explanation, right?
No, you don't have to go too deep.
Yeah. So I don't really have a super clear
of how it works on the back end. No, that's fine. Because I'm definitely curious of the AI. Once you mentioned the AI stuff that you guys are doing, I mean, definitely we could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's definitely a buzz right now. A lot of people are really interested in what's going on in the AI feature. So, how do you, what you do know about and what you guys are working on as far as that definitely help.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a few fronts in terms of what we're working on. I think the first one would be the alpha hunting, right? Essentially, we're seeing it as a not just news feed, but a way to aggregate and analyze on-chain data to be able to provide users with the latest trends, as well as to identify opportunities, right, beforehand, right? So I think it's number one. Number two, another thing is working on is incorporating use case specific AI agents, right? So that could be things like an AI agent that helps the user specifically with yield farming, right, or optimizing liquidity provisioning, right, and so on.
Okay, that's really cool. So as far as everything else is concerned with the community and everything that you've been developing, is there anything particular on the roadmap that's coming up soon? Like, how's everything looking out for you guys and, moving into Q2 now?
Yeah, so I think moving on to Q2, other than, incorporation of new features, one of the things that we're trying to work on more is actually working on partnerships and, developing campaigns with companies or projects outside of the Sony ecosystem, right? And trying to encourage them to either bridge over in some way or incorporate Sonium in some sort of way as well, right? I feel like, right now there is a very strong foundation of projects within Sonium itself, right? But I think having the ability to bring on new projects that are outside the ecosystem with existing users that could potentially bring liquidity, volume, etc., is something that we're working on quite heavily right now.
Okay, why Sonium? And for you guys, was there a particular reason? Why this chain? Like, obviously, given the fact that there's so many great builders on this chain, there's so many great reasons. But do you have any particular reasons for you guys why you particularly chose Sonium?
Yeah, I think, other than the great team building it, right, I think everybody here can attest to the fact in terms of the effort they put in, the resources, the support they give each and every project that's building on here right now. I think it's amazing, right? It's something that we rarely see in the space, right? Even with these other foundations who have, millions or billions of dollars in the treasury, you really rarely see this kind of involvement with the foundation of the team that's building the chain, right? So I think it's number one. And number two, of course, right, I think the fact that Sony is behind this, the resources that they have, the positioning, as well as the overall value proposition, I think it's extremely unique towards Sony. I think we discussed this last week as well in terms of what bringing Web2 IP on chain could help do to the space and how it could further that. Right, a lot of it has been talked so far, but I think Sony is one of the only corporations in Web2 that has that sort of resource and ability to do that. Right, and so I think in terms of the overall ecosystem, Sonium is really one of, if not the only, chain that has that kind of value proposition, right? And I think that's extremely valuable to any project or protocol thinking about building on Sonium.
Yeah, that's the one unique thing I'll say. Moving into our next conversation with the ACS campaign and what it's all about, I do find it interesting because I've worked with quite a few chains at this point, seen their foundations, some bigger than others. And it's ironic, like, you could say that some of these foundations that are more known, the customer service, you know what I mean? The service for the builders, the developers, it's not always what people would expect it to be. And what I have found interesting about Sonium is that, let's say, they only have maybe working with the projects a team of like 20 people. Like, they're working around the clock, it feels like, you know what I mean? They're constantly contacting people, getting people what they need. It's the follow-ups, you know what I mean? Like, constantly following up. I think every day we'll see guys like, when we were working with CM and Yuhang and all those guys, they were just always following up, always making sure, like, hey, did you need this? Did you need that? How's development going with this? It feels like the effort is there, that everyone seems to want it to succeed as a unit, as opposed to just being a project that's kind of just floating out in the ether, which you've seen a lot on other chains. I know some of you guys experienced what went on with Blast and a few other organizations, and it just kind of felt like you were just left out there to see, like, okay, you kind of got to figure it out, which I think is cool. It's really important. I think step one for having adoption is making sure that the chains are supporting those on the ecosystem, because it's not a big deal. I hate it when people, I did marketing for a very, very long time, and I hate it when people gatekeep accounts and they're like, they're not going to give somebody a retweet or a tweet or something going on just for some weird petty reason. And it's one of those things where it feels like they're trying to get everyone reached. They're putting campaigns together constantly. And those are the types of things that you definitely want to see when you're scaling, any particular chain or organization. So Kai, moving in, I know we're going to be talking about the ACS campaign. You want to kick that off and tell everybody what ACS campaign is, what it's about, and why people should check this out, and then we can kind of all just jump in on that.
Yeah, sure. ACS campaign is the major initiative led by Foundation to bootstrap the liquidity of the Sonium chain. So the whole purpose is focused on bringing more liquidity and TVL to the Sonium chain, and make liquidity is like a fuel of the chain that powers everything, including the trading volume, and it flows. It is basically capital, so it flows into the gaming and social apps and make the finance go through. So it is needed for every action on the chain. So yeah, that's the first step for the chain to bootstrap strongly. So the focus is on TVL and partnering up with the Astro Foundation, where in order to make the Aster the mainstream asset on the Sonium itself, we are leveraging those Aster tokens. It's pretty large amount of Aster tokens are given to bootstrap the TVL of the Sonium so that we could success together. So what the since the focus is the TVL, the most of the 70% of the Aster tokens will be given to liquidity providers on various DeFi protocols and non-DeFi protocols. So basically, if you bring USDC, Ethereum, Astra to the Sonium chain, they will gonna index automatically if you deposit on any kind of protocols. And there are different multipliers on protocols and different multipliers for the assets. So you should definitely check it when the announcements go through, or you could already check it from the Astra forum. But if that's too difficult for you, you could always check on the X since we're announcing it every day from tomorrow, I think. And yeah, so there are different asset classes and different multipliers. So basically, what you have to do is to first choose your best assets to lie. So bridge your asset to Sonium, and like you have several options. You could pair it on the DEX and make an LP on the DEX and get a multiplier of 1.5 and earn the points. And or you could bring, for example, USDC and deposit on the lending protocol and earn their points and also the ACS point. And there are another option. There are discretionary points. So there are these are given by each protocol. It's pretty similar with the gold of the Blast chain, if you remember last year. So it is given from each protocol as their discretion, and they decide which actions to incentivize. So gaming or social apps are gonna incentivize users to use their game and like download and like level up on their game like that. And some social apps will gonna incentivize on the social interactions and use the app. And DeFi protocol has their own KPI. Like for example, as a DEX, we have a KPI of both TVL and volume. So we're gonna, in our case, we're gonna incentivize both activity. There are three ways to earn ACS point on our platform. First of all, of course, we're gonna incentivize liquidity. So it is like pretty much similar with ACS centralized indexing. So, but the difference is that for the points given by the foundation, they index no matter your LPR in range or out range or how shallow your liquidity are. They don't care. They just credit the total deposited value itself. The position inside the LP is not important for them, so they index everything. But on our case, in order to make these TVL active, we have to incentivize to the active bean of the actual position. So what we're going to do, so if you are providing liquidity in more narrow positions so that the liquidity are dense, we're going to give you more points. We're indexing the active bean TVL to give our discretionary point. So that's the first way to earn. You just deposit eligible LP on the eligible pairs. And second one, we'll have a trading campaigns to incentivize volume. So there will be a daily volume distribution, and we have occasional trading competition and credit for your volume. And there will be the detailed rule will be announced later, so you could refer to that. And there will be occasional like other events. So yeah, there basically you could remember that there are a way to earn ACS credit from Go by depositing an LP or either by trading any pair. So yep, and on top of that, of course, we're gonna give our own Go credit, and we're preparing lots of campaigns related to these Go credit. So don't miss your chance to double farm ACS point and Go credit and many other partner points on top of that. So yep, that's basically how we are preparing our ACS campaign.
Awesome. I love it, man. I think it's going to be important, having people come into the space, having more people utilize the dApps and everything that's going on in here. That's the one thing that makes Sonium so unique, is that there's such a diverse range of use cases here. And I think that that's what people are excited for, right? Sony has a lot of IP. There's definitely a discussion to be had there, which we can jump into next. But that being said, June, I know you're participating in the ACS campaign as well, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, so how are you guys incentivizing that? What are your goals, KPIs, all that good stuff that you guys are doing? So how can people earn points and interact with Sonex?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a bit similar to how Kai at Kyo Finance is doing it. I think mainly two main categories of activities, right? The first being volume based, and the second being TVL focused, right? I think in terms of the actual mechanisms in which points are distributed, that's still being finalized, so won't share too much here today, right? But I think as I mentioned briefly earlier, it's really about how best to utilize this incentive, not only just from a Sonex perspective, but also from a wider ecosystem, right? As we know, these point farmers or yield farmers are generally quite mercenary, right? They jump from protocol to protocol system to try to maximize yield, and once that's over, they sort of move away or move on to the next better opportunity, right? And so I think not just at Sonex, but I think at Sonium as a whole, I think the most important thing for this campaign is really to think about what happens after the incentives, right? How do we lock in users, throughout this campaign duration to ensure that, this liquidity or these users who come to Sonium during this period that don't just get up and leave right after it's over, right? And so I think, in terms of the design space and the design initiatives, that's something that we are thinking very hard about, and more details to come very shortly on that.
Awesome. I love it. So I was going to ask you guys, now that we're talking, we're getting to nitty gritty, everyone at this point, especially early on, trying to build TVL, trying to get people to incentivize to come on chain, DeFi protocols are absolutely crucial to that, which is why often when you first see these chains launch, they, they'll have an incubation fund, $100 million, whatever it might be, and to incentivize essentially people to come in and explore and build, especially DeFi applications originally. How do you think that that's going to evolve over time, right? So initially, people come in, they're always kind of hunting, like you said, June, and they're constantly trying to find ways to kind of, game the system. How do you find the middle ground of continuing to build out the DeFi sector and to retain, like customer retention, especially on the DeFi side? It seems to be a hot topic and one that is not easy to crack. So how do you think you crack that, but also in a sustainable way? Either one of you guys can take that away.
Yeah, I could talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, this topic has been dealt several times on our AMA, on our own AMA as well. So basically, liquidity is subsidizable. If you try to make it unsubsidizable, it is impossible, because the nature of the liquidity is subsidizable, and it always flows to make a better yield and a better chance. And if they do not, it means either the owner of the wallet is dead, or they are ignorant of the chance. So that's the only reason they don't move. If there's no, yeah. So basically, it is subsidizable. What we have to do is to deal with the unsubsidizable characters of the DEX. So there are several classes of users. Not all users are liquidity providers. There are also other types of users who are using because of other reasons. Of course, there's our traders, and there will be some DeFi enjoyers. There are someone who are here for the airdrop hunting. There are many types, and some people are the ecosystem users, as I say. So these people are not liquidity providers, and they're not coming here for KO itself, but they're here for to use ecosystem DApps like gaming or socials or Launchpad or your Yeehaw or anything. But in the middle, they use our LP and use Swap and as that many things. So not all users are liquidity providers. So that's where we are focusing on, while trying to keep ourselves competitive for the LPers. Since liquidity is subsidizable, we have to keep it competitive and provide a better yield. But on the other hand, we have to try to make unsubsidizable strength of our own and make sticky users. So what we are doing is to make a better experience. Not only so, not we're basically gonna be the multi-chain protocol. We're starting from the Sonium home ground, but basically we're gonna expand ourselves into several chains and provide a unified environment for the traders. So eventually they will be able to trade any tokens on EVM or probably non-EVM if it goes better. So we want to provide the best experience for traders to if I want to exchange tokens, I better go for Go, since they provide the best rate, the fastest experience, and the shortcuts and every like comfortable like convenient features for the traders. So that's what we're trying to be. And yeah, for the LPers as well, so give the better yield. Well, that could be through the emission. Like I've said previously, we're going to sprinkle our emission on top of the base yield, but we're going to make the base yield itself a competitive through the LP payback system that we're developing. So that way, when we expand to other chains as well, if there are some chances, LPers who just gonna say, well, Q is credible and reliable, and they provide good yield in general and in average. Yield could spike in sometimes. Sometimes some DEX or some yield farm could provide like 100% APR, but that is always not sustainable. So if you are a frequent old farmer who could rebalance your position every day or every week, you better stay on the pick one protocol and just stay longer. That gives a best yield in the long term. So we want to be that position. If I deposit on my LP on Go, I be average. In average, I'll get better yield, and it is reliable, and it is on multiple chains. So that if I want to farm on some certain chain, I've definitely got to Go. That's our purpose. How we're making.
I wanted to ask you to go also a little bit. How does, for example, cross-chain liquidity evolve? I know you're briefing on this a little bit, but this is a topic that a lot of people ask about a lot, and I've been getting this topic a lot. How does cross-chain liquidity evolve without running into fragmentation, especially for a project like, you guys launch a token, whatever it might be? I mean, there's different standards, obviously layer 0, there's things that we're experimenting with ourselves, but how do you see that, being a problem? Or maybe it's not, or maybe you have your own particular philosophy or solution.
I think it's up to how you see it. I mean, there are two sides of the liquidity. The cross-chain liquidity. It could be cross-chain liquidity, or it could be just multi-chain liquidity. So I think in general, multi-chain liquidity is enough for like certain usage. So not always a cross-chain liquidity is used. Necessary. So if you are trading in large chunk, cross-chain liquidity might help, since it could aggregate more liquidity from more chains and like gather every liquidity. But in that case, even in that case, probably TWAP order would be better instead of the dumping it at once. It applies same on the sex as well. If your trading size is big, you should definitely try to TWAP instead of dumping at once or buying at once. So that is the basic in normal use cases, not always cross-chain is beneficial, since it entails certain kind of risk, and it entails delay in the time. So what we are trying to do as a multi-chain DEX, we're gonna build a multi-chain liquidity on each chain as much as possible, and aggregate other DEXs liquidity as well when traders trade. So that is one thing, and we want to in certain cases, users want to make a cross-chain sum not only for the less price impact, but because they want to bridge at once. So that is the true meaning of the cross-chain swap. They want to move their chain as a whole, and not only swapping, they also bridge. So it is just combined action. So basically, even in that case, rather than aggregating cross-chain liquidity through some kind of bridging protocols like Layer 0 or CCTP or like that, basically, I believe that it'll evolve into intent-based futures. So solvers on each chain, and there are some multi-chain solvers who has their liquidity on several chains. We're gonna just take that order from you, and okay, you want to make one Ethereum on Sonium and make it a 3,000 USDC on base chain. Okay, so that entails both bridge and swap. It is not necessarily need cross-chain liquidity. If you are a solver who has a liquidity on both chain, you could just give him USDC and take Ethereum on this chain. So that is how cross-chain intent-based swap works. And it seems quite simple, but in the back, what solvers do is aggregating liquidity themselves on each chain. So there are two sides. They take Ethereum and give it USDC on this side, but in the back they calculate the best route to trade on each chain. So that's how Across is evolving, and 1inch is evolving, Uniswap is evolving, and I also believe that cross-chain liquidity will going to evolve. So what DEX has to do is not develop a cross-chain liquidity, but just have enough multi-chain liquidity so the solvers could leverage on those liquidity on each chain. So yeah, we're just trying to be the multi-chain DEX, and as we are developing our own solver system, we are going to be a cross-chain solver. So there are two different things, a different entity and different purpose, but if it is combined, it becomes a cross-chain liquidity and cross-chain swap. So that's how it is, how DeFi is evolving, and what we're trying to go ahead.
That's awesome.
Maybe this explanation is too complex.
No.
Yeah,
go ahead.
To play the role of the fool, what's a cross-chain versus multi-chain?
So when I referring to a cross-chain, it means actually cruising the chain. And when I say multi-chain, it just exists on multiple chains, not necessarily in interaction between the chains. So just existence itself is a multi-chain, and when we are interweaving those liquidity and moving and breaching, that becomes a cross-chain.
There may not be a reason. There may not be a reason to either, Sleazy. So, for example, if Kai and Kyo or us and we all launch on base, and then we launch on Solana, and then we launch on, you may necessarily cross-chain liquidity is not really needed in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're building out there and you're multi-chain, then you're going to have obviously a robust ecosystem
Definitely.
there if you do exactly. So don't get me wrong though, there'll be times which people are going to be solving now. I do believe interoperability is a big issue, and it will be for some time. I think it's going to take some time, but I also think it's intentional. It's almost like having the cure for cancer. It's like you make more money keeping people that way, and it's just because our chains and organizations they make more money that way. And don't get me wrong, that's a whole nother conversation and a part of it, but I do believe that inevitably we're going to move towards a future where it's as easy to swap from, which it is in theory, but there's still some barriers through that. But just to simply say, hey, moving this liquidity here, moving it all around, there's still a lot going on. But June, I wanted to ask you.
And did you say the solver that you're building is something like indexing the multi-chain liquidity?
Kai?
Right?
Yeah. Pardon?
Yeah, did you say
to me?
Yeah. What do you say this solver that you're building is?
A solver, you could just say that DEX aggregator. It is basically what solvers do. I mean, yeah, to be exactly, it is not exactly same, but yeah, generally what solvers do is aggregating the DEX.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, they find the best path based on the user's input to come up with the best possible execution, right? So all that matters is the outcome versus having to do 10 steps before reaching the final goal, right? So it simplifies that process, but also makes it more efficient in terms of fees, right, gas, etc.
June,
Like
I
I
wanted
always say,
to...
before making educational content, I actually gotta go and ask what it is I'm actually trying to educate people about, because I don't know what it is either.
And
So
there's
yeah,
nothing
glad
wrong
to
with
have you
that. I think we're all growing. I don't think there's lots of things that I read all the time that I still learn myself, which I think is a cool part about this. Not everybody knows anything, and the people that seem to act like they do are the ones you often want to stay away from. But June, I was going to ask you. Now, moving forward, DeFi is evolving, especially for DEXs, and they're having to pivot and they're having to find new ways to capture customers and things like that. What do you think the DEX of tomorrow looks like? What is that future DEX? Because finance is evolving rapidly. And I have another follow-up question for you for that, but I'll let you start right there. Where do you think the DEX of tomorrow looks like?
Right. I mean, I think maybe just taking a example that's not Sonex, right? Let's take
No, you can take either we want. Go for it. Yeah.
For example, right? I think what they've done the last 6, 12, 18 months has been pretty incredible, right? They've managed to pretty much replicate what a second centralized exchange experience would look like, but
That's
entirely
crazy.
on chain, right? And not just that, but in terms of some of the features that they've been able to implement, right? Like for example, the automated market making, right? Vaults and the not, right? I think not only are they bringing this centralized experience on chain, but further improving it, right? And so I think just from a user as well as a protocol standpoint, it is something that every protocol should strive to do, right? In terms of being able to not only listen to user feedback and build the best possible features and products for them, but also be forward thinking in terms of how the landscape would change and how to best position yourselves, right? And so I think Kai just now touched on a very good point in which he said, liquidity is a moat, but also is ever shifting, right? Yes, he said, I think, smart traders or smart yield farmers won't leave money in a protocol that doesn't yield them X% APY. If they're smart, either that they're dead, right? And so, right. And so I think liquidity itself can be a huge moat. Look at Uniswap, for example, right? They've managed to keep their impressive lead in terms of being a number one DEX across.
They got a lot of volume. They got a lot of volume, a lot of users. Yeah.
Right. And that's a function of liquidity, right? Primarily, but that's also a lot of the factors that are not so tangible, right? So for example, things like community, right? How do you get, as Kai mentioned, not traders or not, not mercenary capital, but users who actually love and believe in your product, right? Become evangelists for the protocol, right? Go spread the word, right? Or we call it like marry your bags, right? Like become so involved in the community and they love the project so much, right? They feel ownership, they feel heard, right? They feel like the feedback they're given is being implemented, right? And even if the token price is not doing so well or whatever it is, that they're still believing in the future and the vision of the protocol, right? And so I think that's what we're trying to do at Sonex is really try to be involved in the community, allow them to give as much feedback as possible, and then of course then utilize this feedback in a constructive manner to build the best possible product, right? And I think another thing which Kai also touched on briefly would be another thing that's more is how fast it can ship, right? Smart contracts on chain are open source by default, right? Anybody can fork your code, do this exact same thing, but with a different UI. And so, I mean, Uniswap is another great example of this, right? Back in the early DeFi days, I'm sure you guys remember when.
Yeah, everybody did. Almost everybody.
Right, vampired Uni.
I think 90. I'm not gonna lie. I still think I'm willing to be aggressive and say 90% of DEXs, there's a lot of people that are still using, Uniswap and everything that's a large majority because it's safe, it's secure too, and it's don't get me wrong, it's scalable. So I could see why.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's safe, it's secure, it works, right? I think any protocol that's building on Uniswap's tech as its foundation, then the next step.
A wheel's a wheel too, though. I think a wheel's a wheel. Like a lot of people say, if you build your own, sometimes, and this I think a lot of people don't understand that are not on the developer side. you're end up going to be building the exact same thing. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it does the same thing. So if it works already, it's no different than, going and buying a frame from something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think, that's one of the core propositions of smart contracts and blockchain technology, right? Is that it allows for much higher levels of composability, right? Compared to Web 2, where everything is closed sourced and a lot of it
Yep.
comes from data-based network effects. I can build Facebook that 10 times
I
better
love that. That's a good take. Yeah.
usability, etc. But I can't take Facebook's users because I don't have that network effect, and that's closed off, right? But when it comes to blockchain, everything it's flows freely from protocol to protocol, right? And that's why I emphasize on the fact that how quickly you ship in terms of how quickly incorporate user feedback. It's so important, right? Everybody can build off the same base. Let's say Uniswap V3 concentrated liquidity pools, right? But after that, how quickly you can then innovate, make improvements to that. What differentiates a project that builds on the same foundation, but then becomes a top 5, top 10 DEX compared to someone who just falls into oblivion and is never heard of again, right? And so I think
branding is important too. I think
for sure.
DEXs are evolving, man, radically. Like I think you touch on some of the big points, but some of the ones where I really see in the future is, especially with poly market and prediction markets and everything kind of just exploding the way it did, late last year, all into this year. I think data driven, you know what I mean? Especially a lot of data is going to be a big deal. Getting people accessibility. So here's what I mean. I think when people come into Web3, the biggest issue is people get lost. There's so much going on. There's so much, that you have to worry about and you have to be careful about. The accessibility is important. So I see like DEXs that are, finding ways to get people. What are the best pools? What are the best options? What things should they be looking at? It's almost like the same way. And I've always told people this. I think the future is very much kind of how Netflix is, where you log into Netflix and the algorithm is based upon what you like and what you watch. That to me is the future of where this is all going to inevitably evolve. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think is one thing that Web3 still hasn't learned from Web 2, perhaps? I know we talked about the other way around, but do you think there's some things that we still have to learn from? What is that gap that we still need to close, in your opinion?
Right. I think that the key thing here is that a lot of cool shit, great innovations are happening in Web3, but I think a lot of times it's too narrative driven, right? Don't get me wrong, storytelling is so important.
That's good. That's good.
Right? I mean, storytelling is important everywhere, be it Web 2, Web 3, any kind of business, right? And it's the ability to draw and people keep their attention. Right? I think in Web 3 itself, that's way too overplayed, right? We've seen, not going to mention any names, but many protocols that promise the world, have great narrative, but ultimately end up shipping some shitty product, but still somehow, because of the hype, get carried to 9-10 figure valuations.
Yeah.
People then get drawn into this narrative by the token. It somehow always drops 99, 90%, whatever, and then the newcomers who decided to believe in the vision of the product then get rugged or something to that regard, right? And this is bad for the space, right? It's like these overly inflated valuations that are purely based on hype and narrative are just a net negative for the space, in my opinion. Of course, it makes a lot of the insiders rich and makes a lot of teams rich very quickly, but of course, this also then incentivizes teams to continue building. It sort of wrecks a lot of the community members or token holders or token buyers of these projects, right? And the space as a whole can't really progress, I feel, to a large extent until some of these issues are fixed, where we focus more on foundation, we focus more on metrics that can be tracked and not necessarily manipulated, right? In which I think Web 2 does keep a much bigger focus on right now.
Okay. No, listen, I'm not letting you off the hook, man. That's really, really good feedback on that. I want to get a little bit more on that. Sleazy, what do you think? I want to get your opinion on it. Like, you're in the trenches with this as well. What do you think those gaps are, some of those things that still need to be closed?
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind is really the... Okay, so the user, pretty much the user experience. Like, on the one hand, we can see that all the protocols are doing what Web 2 isn't doing, like attending to Discord tickets. Of course, Web 2 companies never have Discords. It would be weird if there was a Web 2 company that has a Discord where people can actually come and ask questions. Some people, well, there's no like landline that Web 2 companies
do you think
have.
Discord? Do you think Discord is eventually going to be like a barrier? Like, I always think about that, in your opinion, because like this is something me and you, like, we kind of deal with every day. Do you think having like Discord be the center point where the community is a benefit or inevitably that's something that can end up working against, people looking to build communities.
Well,
Do you
I mean,
think it's Discord is the community? Because it feels like Discord is, when people say community, the first thing that comes to my mind is Discord and Telegram. Is that inevitably how this looks? Because, and the only reason why I'm asking this is because you think in a Web 2 sense, if somebody builds like, like Chase Bank doesn't have a Discord, like at least I don't think so. Quote me, I might be wrong, but like you get what I'm saying? Like, how does that look moving forward?
yeah, I mean, they have a landline instead of that. Well, like, I guess to start with, having a community is better than not having a community. Web
I
2
agree.
companies never have a community. So, like, if you have an option to join a community, it's always better than not having the option to join the community.
So you
And,
think we're going to be like super communities? Like imagine everyone's going to have, like, if companies of the future will all have Discords and communities.
Yeah, well, community is a strong word. Of course, we use it all the time, but not all of them are communities because you actually need enough active people for this. Everyone, of course, is going to at least try. And if we look at projects that are kind of like a hybrid, that they can be like funded by Web3, but then like the majority of operations are like on Web2 side. Maybe they have like a subnet on top of the layer 2 or layer 1. Their communities are usually not as big, but they still have them. So are we all moving towards that? Maybe not. I think it will all depend on how Web3 you want to be.
Yeah, but I don't know if that inevitably will be a Web3. I'm going to get your opinion on this too, Noodle. I think, what would be pretty cool about this, if you ask me, is the connectivity, like how close you are to the organization. So a lot of these organizations spend a lot of money, have big budgets on PR and marketing and, customer outreach, just getting acquisition. And I believe you're able to identify. The one thing I will say about Discord that I think is valuable is you're able to identify the power users, right? You're able to identify who those key users are in your ecosystem that are constantly returning, that are championing the product that you're building. So I can imagine, having an institution build, some type of community. I think it's important because it kind of gives you like this sense of understanding what people want when they want it. Customer service, I think, is a huge one because I feel like in this AI generation, I get that it's supposed to be convenience, but when I get any type of AI customer service or support or anything, like immediately it turns me off. Like it's one of those things where it just makes me cringe. It's annoying. I don't want to press 1 or 2 or 6 or go back to a main menu over and over and over again. I wanted to get like Noodle. How do you feel about that community building? What are some of the gaps? Also, Web 2, 3, etc.
Well, to be fair, I've been saying now for quite a while that I guess Discord and or Telegram is sort of just like a real-time sort of view of your audience, if that makes sense. So let's say, for instance, across studios, right?
Yeah.
When we're putting announcements, you can see in real time exactly how many people are interacting with it, how interested they are. It's basically just a graph. If you really dumb it down, it's just like, this is how interested these people are in this product or this thing. And especially now with, again, Web3, you don't see many projects anymore that don't say, oh, join our Telegram or join our Discord, because that's sort of where it's going. They're all trying to build these community, especially in RWA side. They're all trying to build these big communities to push the product, essentially.
But what about the people that are not like here where I want to post to you? Because this is a big one and this is real. I've got to see this over time. And here's why. I remember when big mints were going on or when we'd have campaigns for stuff like that. And we'll send out a message maybe and it'll get like, I don't know, let's say 50 people like, or whatever. But there's some that where not many people care. But once the product is launched, they go nuts. Like I've seen power users spend tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on things through the years. And they're just not Discord people or they're not very active. Like some people are just not, you get what I'm saying? Like some people are just not the type of people to just go in there and message all the time because they're either working or they have kids or they have a life or they have like inevitably is Discord customer service or is it the most accurate way to gauge? Because I feel like there's a lot of power users that don't.
That's actually reminded me. So in the UK, there's a rapper called Dave, street level rapper, and he had this really famous lyric saying, some people show up to the motives but not the meetings, and motives
Okay.
basically being
Yeah.
parties. So I
Yeah,
guess
yeah, I like that.
in a sense of like in Web3 is people will show up for the end product because that's when the money starts getting interested, isn't
Yeah.
it? The build process, many people won't really be caring. They'll just be waiting for that big day of token drop. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
You get hit
yeah,
words.
yeah.
That's it. They're not going to be like, oh, this is our development. This is what we're doing. This is how far along. They'll be like, just tell me when it's done, mate. Do you get what I mean? Tell me
So
me
do
when
you
I can
need
make
an
money.
active community? So this is a good topic, guys. I feel like we could dig into this. So do you need, what defines an active community to me? Like, you know, do you need an active community, or do you need a strong, loyal, or buyer user base? And how are you going to differentiate that? Like, how are you going to figure that out, especially in this space where, you know, like I said, I know I'm one of those people where, for example, I'm looking at my Discord open at one of the windows. I got like 6 screens in front of me. And one of them, like, I have literally, I can't even tell you how many Discord servers I'm a part of. And I can't tell you the last time I've checked like a majority of them. And it's not for lack of wanting, it's just time, right? So like, how many people, how do you eventually gauge that? I guess that's where I feel like, you know, Discord has turned more into, for example, people say there's a psychology done where people that leave reviews, right? The only time people leave reviews, and there's something called an NPS, a Net Promoter Score, which some companies do this. We used to do this at a big IT company that used to be at that. Every time we had a client, or, you know, a big client, we sealed a big deal, we'd send out like an anonymous, like a Net Promoter Score, how did we did type of thing. And people can actually do those anonymously. And the reason why, when they do work, you know, because some people don't do it, but when they do work, it's because the only time people will do something is if they're really pissed off. Is that's number one. Or if they really, like, you had to really give them a great experience, which is sometimes it's a good gauge. So I feel like Discord's like that. People will come to the Discord and open a ticket and bitch if something was really, like, they're just pissed
like
off.
really wrong.
The website's down, something isn't working, or they're really excited about whatever it is. So it's like finding that middle ground, man, because there's a lot of users, like, I don't know. My idea is changing of what I once believed Discord should be to what it is now. I used to think having hype boys in your community and all that is important. It is in the context of rating and social posting and like having like presence there for sure. But I think now, you know, more focused on quality and consumers that actually use the product for what it is and not just hype boys. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, now I think people are sick of it. Hype boys in Web3, especially like this bull run we're talking about here.
Definitely.
Who now it's just everyone's like, who cares? They're like, you're getting these people on Twitter being like, next big thing, next big thing, next big thing. Everything's the next big thing now. So it's just like having, especially like a lot of people in being like, oh, this is it, this is what you should be doing. You're just like, oh, piss off. Like I just don't really like. I don't have to listen to you. Do you get what I mean? Because everyone says the same thing. It's especially like because when we were talking about when we had that marketing meeting not too long ago, we were talking about it's like it's great, sort of like constantly pushing everything, but we need proof. We need proof of interest. That's the basically what am I saying?
Sometimes I feel like having gossips is a better way to go about promoting your product, because when something goes wrong and you actually have like an interesting gossip to tell people, that might even be a little damaging, but it brings attention to you, and then you fix the problem.
No such thing as bad publicity, as they say.
Yeah, especially like it's been the case when we're talking about the current political climate. Like even when you are attacked by the opposition,
it worked out. It worked out. Yeah. I was about to say it worked out for Trump. So like,
yeah,
I see. Like, I mean, like I said, agree or not, I mean, it's one of those things where I think you have to be careful what you draw attention to, and I think people are getting more strategic in the ways that they draw attention to what's being built. And I think that's going to be very, very interesting moving into 2025 and marketing. I think marketing is going to evolve, and that is going to be how it evolves. I think the way that people present things in the public, I'm not saying like, you know, transparency is important to me personally, most importantly, but the way people do things is going to be far more strategic. For example, you know, people could do like, you know, TAC campaigns, or, you know, you see it in Super Bowl commercials. People do crazy outlandish things in a commercial just to get some attention for something, for a Doritos commercial, like something stupid. But I think playing to human emotions and pushing the needle on how that works, whether it be positive, negative. I don't think people no longer view things in terms of good and bad. I think it's all part of the same cycle. It's just what captures that user attention and how can you minimize the damage that could potentially come out of that.
I think it's like the closest thing we can compare it to is something like Kardashians. Like everyone knows Kardashians. I have no idea like what they even do. I just know that everyone follows them.
I was never into. I know they're big, but I'm right there with you. Don't feel bad.
I'm completely.
like,
I used to love the Kardashians, mate. I'm not even joking. I used to watch it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you can explain to us what they even are. I just know that they're.
No,
like,
I don't. I couldn't tell
but...
you. I have no idea. I've watched seasons. I have no idea what they're
just hot and rich. And he's like,
it's just like. They're how do I go about this? Because it's a difficult topic. They're at the time father, now I guess mum, was a very famous Olympian.
Their dad. Shit. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. We'll just say Jenna. Jenna was a very famous Olympian, and then they had kids, and
he
had kids.
And then
Also, their dad represented O.J. Simpson as well. I remember that, I think.
Yeah. I think their actual father. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's so cringe, but you can't help but keep watching.
It's bad, and I think that's where we're going to, like cringe media. Like you could see that even with certain comedians, like Will Ferrell and all them. I always thought he was super cringy. My mom couldn't stand Jim Carrey, but like they're very much that type of cringy stuff. Like sometimes people, it's a niche. Let me ask, so Kai or June, either one of you guys, wrapping it up. This is kind of like on the back end of this community building and what we're talking about. How do you see that evolving in the space? Like obviously you guys are DeFi protocols, you're locking in liquidity. It's bringing in people that are looking to, participate in these activities in hopes that they can gain some type of edge. But the community aspect of this, like just normal everyday people that may not get that, they do understand, people and emotions and feelings. How do you see like all these things evolving in Discord communities and all the things that we're talking about now? Either one of you guys could take that away.
Yeah, maybe I can go first.
Yeah,
man. I think community will always remain, or hopefully, remain a core part of projects in the Web3 space, right? Because I think that's one of the core tenets as well, right? It's giving back users, community ownership, power, decision making, processes, etc., right? And that's sort of the big paradigm shift from Web 2, where power and decision making is concentrated within a couple of individuals or shareholders, right? So I think as a whole, I hope community continues to be an important part, right? But I think it's debatable how that will evolve. Like, will Discord or Telegram continue to be the main platforms in which communities form and engage, or are these just the current alternatives that we have, right? I think this topic can be debated on for hours, but I think the core thing here, right, is to go ahead.
Yeah, I think Discord evolved from WhatsApp. Like, when companies had integrated in WhatsApp, so they could have like direct line instead of actually calling. I think that's like the next level of WhatsApp.
Slack is big too in corporations. Like when anybody that works in tech will, you're going to use Slack. But go ahead, June.
Yeah. So I was just saying, but I think the main thing here is to really be able to better define what community is, right? Is a community just 30,000, 40,000 people sitting in your Discord server, Telegram, as you said, hype boys who shout out the protocols like, yeah, it's great, or do you want to define it as, right, users, right, who have like interpersonal connections with one another over a certain aspect of a certain project, right? So I think a good example of this, and of course we can also discuss another time whether or not it was a successful model, but let's say NFTs, right? And I think
I would love it. We could get in. We will. Go ahead.
That comes to mind is Bored Apes, right? It's purely built on community, right? It's a crazy phenomenon where, oh, I have an ape, you have an ape, oh shit, we're friends now, or we're bros now, oh, let me connect you with this bank I know and get you a job, right? I think and that's the kind of phenomenon, or that the kind of definition of what community should be. Is not just individuals sitting in the chat, asking questions or sending angry feedback, but rather bonding over a commonality of either the love of the protocol or just being owners or stewards of this project, right?
So passionate about that's Oh my god. Because people do not like, that's one of the main reasons why I got in the game. Like me, listen, man, behind it all, at the end of the day, we're all like, we're also businessmen, right? Like we're all, or women or ladies, everybody out there. But there's power in this space of networking, and very few people have mastered one thing. There's one particular thing that is important that Bored Ape did so fucking well. So yes, famous people had a Bored Ape, everyone had a Bored Ape. So what ended up happening is, if you had one, like you said, you might think, well, hell, when you go to the Bored Ape parties, you're going to meet one of these people more than likely, or you're going to be able to see them, and that was so important. But the one thing that I think is key for Web3 to do, that's not just web, this is why I hate it when it just gets stuck in that fishbowl, is opening up opportunities for people in real life. When you log off this damn screen and you leave your Discord and you go and you leave your house to go to wherever, whether it's job hunting, whether it's resume things, whether it's people finding ways to tap into things that people can take into their real life. And I feel that is like the evolution of community, or at least getting back to it, if that's what it always was about. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think it's almost taking something and making it a part of your identity.
Yes.
Right? To a large extent, right? And I think, if you can even have 1%, 2%, 3% of your overall user base that are those type of users who interact with each other, who knows, the names of your, the Discord members and stuff like that. And I think you've come a long way as a protocol or project, right, in terms of community building.
I agree completely. You know what? You gave us the next topic. Sleazy, we're gonna have to do a show about that. Like that, especially digging into like the community, the NFT crate, like how that all came about. What were the feelings? What was the euphoria? Like, I'll never forget that, man, because I jumped in before NFTs even existed. So back then we didn't even have, NFTs weren't really a factor until a lot of people don't know, like a Neil Dash and all these guys, and how NFTs came about, and the whole New York scene, the Brooklyn scene, and then CryptoPunks. That was crazy, man. Like, I'll never forget how that just felt in the beginning, and everybody jumping in crypto kitties, and and then SEC getting first projects that got in trouble. But go ahead, Jim.
No, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that NFT mini bull run we had is still the most memorable period over the last 4 or 5 years for me, at least. I had the most fun trading PFPs, being part of these communities, just shooting the shit with community members. I think that was right. That was
not even
great.
that as well. I think it was just that was the one where the general public started catching on as well, because the whole joke was like magic internet picture money, yes, and it's just like, and that's with the one, especially with the Bored Ape hype. Everyone was just like, "What the fuck is this?"
I miss it.
Yeah.
I will argue, and people, I'll die on this hill. I will argue that it was more genuine in the beginning than it is now. I think in the beginning, when all that came out, like, people were just like, holy shit, this is new technology. This is like, what the hell is this? I got to get involved. And it's just like, people were just like jumping in. If you had we were talking about this with SHG, with some investor friends of ours, with our VC network people, and they were like, listen, man, back in 21, like, you could literally just have a pitch deck that was a couple pages that looked good and get $1 million in funding. Like, it was crazy. Like, you could get funded for almost anything back then. So like, when I look at it now, man, that was pretty cool, man. And I think now it is becoming corporatized. It's because obviously safer investments, institutions getting involved, regulation. When I always said this, man, when things get boring, that's how you know mass adoption's here. And I know I'm always going to say that when it's super generic and boring. So you have to really find those communities. But I don't know, June, like man, those were the days, man. Because for me, it felt, do you think it was more genuine then than it was now?
For sure. I think, especially because it's such a new thing, as you mentioned. Back then, it was like, whoa, right? And people took time to not only understand what it was, but just the freshness of it all, right? But whereas I think, don't get me wrong, right, that the industry has come extremely far from a tech perspective, from a UI UX perspective since then. But a lot of it's still built on the foundations of that new technology being introduced back in the last bull run, right? And so right now, what we're seeing is very, I would like to say, almost incremental improvements or innovation that doesn't come in like one huge spurt. It's like, oh no, it's not like one huge thing is dropped, right? It's like incrementally, step by step, things get better and better and better, right? And so I think that initial mania was probably extremely overblown and definitely a bubble, but was very fun for sure.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. Kai, what's your take on that? Like I said, to take us out, man, the community thing, like the vibe is way different now, man. It's very systematic. It's very VC. Like everything to me feels very Silicon Valley-ish at this point, where it's very much like everything's a pitch. I feel like I'm constantly pitching. And I want to get back to a place, at least that's how we feel here, like of having fun again. Like you remember what that was like. Like it was just so different. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, of course. Like for every like technology or every product, there's a wow moment that when it comes up first time, you're mesmerized by it and you use it, and there's nothing same experience you've done before. So that is a magical moment that and I think we're in the stage that that moment has passed by far. But now it's more mature stage, as Jin said, and there might be less wow moment on every product, but it is getting more and more like sophisticated and like preventing scams one by one. And yeah, it's definitely getting better, but probably getting boring. So yeah, and in terms of community, it is quite complex thing now. I mean, usually when you use a financial product, you don't become a member of community. You just use it
you just
for
use
your
it.
own. Yeah, you don't become a member of some bank when you use financial services. So that's quite a bizarre and unique thing of Web3, and that's partly because what we call community is complex of real like fan group. So every product has a fan group. When there's a new thing, there's a Reddit thread, or there's a separate board or website.
You know who taps into this though, Kai?
forums.
You know who taps into this though, Kai? You said something that just off the top of my head real fast. I was thinking immediately when you said banks, people don't use it. You're 100% right. But kind of in Web 2 who really tried to do that? Credit cards. And you know why? You ever seen how, for example, like if I fly and I have like my American Express Platinum or something like that, they actually have like perks where you can go, for example, if you're in the airport, there's like certain special lobbies you can go. There's certain reward. I was just thinking about that. I wonder. That's interesting, man. I wonder how that will ever translate. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so there is quite complex thing that we want to call communities. So there are those things, and there are also like customer service. It is emerged into the Discord channel within other community, and there are also like investor group. So mostly Discord is act as a investor relation. So because whether they are current investor or potential investor, they're mostly all investors. So that's why Web3 community has become so much active. I mean, most product doesn't need a community, but almost every Web3 product has a community, and it is the core of the product. And that's because they are all either current investor or possibly investor or have been invested. So that's why so many Web3 products has a community. And I think that's important. Every Web2 product and Web2 companies has a investor relationships or investor meeting, whether it be a annual meeting or monthly meeting. They even send out letters to the investors, and so periodically communicate. So every investor has an investor community, and that's how current Web3 community.
It's like a giant cap table. It's like a giant cap table. It's basically a giant cap table.
Very distributed cap table with like open open investor relation community. So that's the core of current Web3 community. And on top of that, there's a customer service, and there's a fan group, and there's a like early adopter community group, a forum that all combined into Discord community with several channels and like several mediums. So I think it's quite complex thing, and I think it's a very unique aspect of Web3. And the interesting thing that are happening here is that when people were just users, not an investor. For example, as a DEX, they were just a trader, but because they involved in this Discord community, when, for example, they wanted to see announcement or they wanted to ask something as a customer when they're using customer service, and suddenly they become investor, because it is basically an investor community. So it is quite interweaving those separately working communities into one, and is very unique aspect of Web3, an interesting aspect of Web3, I think. And a good way, there would be interesting way to leverage it. And one of that is, like you said, NFT membership, or like there are many ways to gamify those and enhance the experience, those community experience. So yeah,
Web3. So here's the one thing I'm curious of your take on. So I have this in my head, right? And Web3, blockchain, crypto, it's very reward driven, right? People are here because they want financial gain, right? Like that. Let's be clear. Let's just throw it out there. People are here because they come into a project and they think, most people, don't get me wrong, most people are here, you know, for gaining some, whether it be token airdrop, whether it be something that they can flip and sell. My only worry, and I imagine this is my question to you also as a Dex somewhere through all this, is there's a lot of pressure right there to perform. There's a lot of pressure to constantly give things out to people. So like, but there's only so much. And that's the one thing that people don't understand. There's only so much of a pot before you're giving away air, right? And a lot, and there's always the constant pressure, just like we talk about indexes, sustainability of APRs and all that good stuff. Like how do you, through all of this process, right? How do you find a way not only to just sustain all this, but to get to the heart of a user base that, like, I care about the genuine side of it, man. Like I care about it feeling and being genuine, and users will consume and they'll constantly come in. Like the reason why I'm saying this is because I know a lot of people that come into servers, like I said earlier, and they won't say anything at all. There's just guys that are hunting. You know, they have whole teams. There's whole teams. There's people in your Discord servers sometimes that you don't even know they're operating with a whole team. They're just waiting for TGE so they can farm and do whatever it is that they might do. And I think, how is DeFi going to evolve with community and how that looks in the future? And does it even matter? I guess at the end of the day, it's all about the DeFi side of it. But I feel like at the same time, the pressure for you to constantly having to meet that demand, it's like, when does it become too much? Like with the greed, the whole, like, I know it's a big philosophical question, but I feel like there has to be a balance there somewhere in this consumer mentality of Web3. I feel like it's like, you know, consumer is always a big deal in Web2, right? Like, you know, it's just the way the world works right now. We live in a very consumer-based society. We have for the last 20 years, if not more than that. But now it's like Web3 takes that to another level. And it's to the point where people are just like, you know, like I think of those fish from SpongeBob. They're like, mine, like those things, like, you know, if you remember. And to me, it's like, what is the balance there, man? Where is this all going? You know?
I don't know. I mean, you said about the people are here for the financial gain, but I see it differently. I think that people are here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is partly. I mean, people are here for the dopamine. I mean, they're here for fun, and yeah, because for most of the people, like 99% of the people, crypto is not their main job. They have their main job, and they're here as a like extracurricular or like extra job, not a job, but they're here to have fun. And financial gain is one way to get a high dopamine, a high fun, so a high level fun. So if they have other like things to do and enjoy themselves, that could be gaming or social interactions with global members. That could be anything. A community, like they could be indulging like the community, like an NFT. They're not there for purely financial. Of course, partly they do, but some people hold NFT for like 10 years, like from the launch, and they just enjoy the community interaction, and that is one way to get fun. So financial gain when you earn money, it's really fun.
Yeah, I agree.
It generates a lot of dopamine for more than anything. So they're here for several like main reason is to have fun, and one way, easiest way so far on crypto scene is to make money out of it. Whether it's being a Ponzi game, or it could be an airdrop hunt, or it could be a pure trading, and they're enjoying with the memes. So there will be several ways, and
So
we should just
gamifying the process, you say,
yeah.
is key. Okay, yeah, I think I
Yeah.
would agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, we want to diversify those things so that people don't get fed up with like things. Airdrop could be one thing, but if there's only one thing airdrop, people will easily get fed up with it, and not everyone gains a lot. So yeah, we have to diversify the fun. So it could be like meme, like playing with meme coins, or it could be like doing several activities and interacting with like community members. It could be like using like gamings or like main things. Yeah, we have several ways to gamify it and make people get people keep interested in it. Like even as a DeFi or financial product, we keep release new feature, and when people use a good product and like when they get satisfactory like thing experience on new things, they can play with it like yeah, so yeah, that's how you do it so far. And DeFi, like it gives a lot of financial like gains. Like it basically provide a higher yield than any other financial product in
Okay.
Web2, and that is very dopaminogenic. I mean, and yeah. That could be itself could be one way, but yeah, we are trying to diversify it as much as possible
I
to
agree.
keep people interested. Yeah.
I agree, man. That's good stuff, man. Listen, guys, listen, I really appreciate everybody, man. All you guys are awesome. Every single time we have a great show, we have a great conversation. We're definitely going to be having more of these. I think what it really sums up to is there's a lot of amazing developments going on. The space is continuing to evolve. I think the customer experience, just in business in general, is continuing to evolve. And I think, eventually we're blurring the lines of what this demographic, with this Web3, the buzzwords, and what that all really is. And I think it's coming to a point where it's about the experience. Like, I think we could take that away today, where a majority of this is, what is that user experience? Like, a great UI is one thing. That's a part of it. Having a community, that's a part of it, right? But it's the overall experience that a person has when they come into a space. And I think it's that experience that's going to continue to drive the space. It's getting back to those days, especially those earlier days, where how do you capture the excitement? How do you capture all the hype and all of that passion that people have and put it into something that's memorable, right? Because like people say, they remember how they felt, right? They might forget your name, they might forget what it was, but they remember how they felt. And at the end of the day, that is going to be the key, I think, in moving the needle forward. It's these moments that you create throughout the experience. Now, not everything is like a movie. Not everything is an action film, and it doesn't need to be. But I think everybody has their own little thing that makes them unique. Because I've connected with people over the weirdest things. I've connected with people over stuff in DeFi, or I've met people in this space where I've connected over something completely different that has nothing to do with what's going on here. And I think it's those moments that mean the most, because you remember, they're memorable, and you remember those types of things. So I think, that being said, man, everybody, love you guys. Closing thoughts for anybody else? I don't know, Sleazy, Noodle, Kai, June. I don't know if you guys have any final closing thoughts.
I had one final thing to say, but this is completely off topic. It was actually something we talked about.
Yeah, go
yesterday.
shoot.
Have you ever heard of Liquid Marketplace?
I don't want to say I have. It sounds familiar, but no, maybe not.
You might.
I
You
don't
might
know
have.
solid marketplaces.
I'm horrible with names. You guys know me. I'm bad with names. I got to see something.
Remember when we were talking about NFTs and the idea of, like, Pokemon cards?
Yeah. Okay.
Stuff. Liquid Marketplace. I'm not. This is non-financial advice. But they have graded Pokemon cards and graded like sports cards, and you can technically buy a share of that art and co-own collectibles.
I have seen it. Okay, yeah. I am familiar with that. Okay.
But I was just telling you about, also because we were talking yesterday about obviously Pokemon cards and like how expensive they can get and stuff. But this is where you can co-own them with people via
Fractionalizing,
Web3,
that's
which
the
is pretty
future.
cool.
RWAs, that's huge, man.
Mm.
That's going to be huge. People are already fractionalizing assets. It's no different than when people do, which I think, some of them you got to be careful are scam, but timeshares. So there's something called timeshares where like a bunch of people buy into one particular house somewhere. And then next thing you know, when you put into the calendar when you want to go on vacation, if no one booked it during that time that has that timeshare, then inevitably, like, don't get me wrong, like I that's for another topic I also want to get into. There's a lot of things. Nothing new is, when you're younger, you hear adults tell you nothing new is under the sun. And you always, when you're young, you rebel and you're like, yeah, this, like, you don't know what's going on. Like stupid things like watching Kendrick Lamar wear bell bottoms. Like, you know what I mean? I'm seeing people wear bell bottoms. And it's like everything that you could see, whether it be a financial system, whether it be some type of architecture, some type of infrastructure, whatever it might be, everything particularly is things that people build on top of. That's just how humans naturally work, right? We build on top of concepts and then you make it better, you refine it, you mold it. So I think there's a lot of concepts that people don't realize that exist in everyday life, like timeshares and things like that, which you can kind of, equate to things like decentralization. So, little by little, we're going to see more and more of those lines becoming blurred. Final thoughts for you, Kai, or any of you guys? Do you have any closing thoughts? What you're doing, why people should check you out, all that cool stuff.
Yeah, I think a final thought for this week would be to encourage a participation on the ACS since it is, and I think we missed this part, but we are gonna launch a DeFi, Sonium DeFi conquest tomorrow. So along with everyone here, like Sonex, Apose, and like all other DeFi protocols, like 13 other DeFi protocols, we're gonna launch a co-hosted quest. So it'll be huge, and there will be on-chain quests and off-chain quests, and there will be rewards from each protocol, and there will be common prize pool that you all participants will gonna get a raffle. So it'll be huge initiative before the ECS. So that'll be the major take of this session. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, I'm excited, man. The ACS campaign tomorrow, which I'll cover that after June. Do you have anything final closes?
Kai said it best. Keep an eye out on the ACS campaign. Should be very exciting stuff. More details to come for sure. Other than that, thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure. I think we have a lot more new topics to discuss for the next couple shows in terms of community, RWAs, and whatnot. So excited for that.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, listen, man. ACS campaign, it's going to be epic. You got to go check it out. Listen, man, you're going to do a whole bunch of cool stuff, interactions. You're going to do swaps, and you're going to do minting for us. We have a complete overhaul of the UI. We know you guys are going to love it. It's pretty cool. Like really, really put a lot of time and effort and heart and analytics into this. Just sitting there for countless hours. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? So anytime you put your passion or something into something, you want that to translate for the user. And I think for us, that's what we're most focused on right now is the user experience. A lot of new things, I'm not going to jump down the line, but new updates with the game will be coming. New updates at the marketplace will be coming. Obviously, our flagship, we didn't launch our NFT project yet, but we will soon. The AI avatars, Posse Pioneers will be coming. So I am pretty excited about that. TGE, I can't give too much alpha like Kai said as well. Timing is everything. That's what I will say. Timing is everything. But this ACS campaign is going to be dope. You're going to be able to do DeFi interactions on all of these amazing protocols like Sonex and Keo Finance. For us, you'll be able to list things, mint things, and just get rewards and points. And I know that's what you guys love to do. You love the farm stuff. You love the rewards. You love the points. But listen, man, don't forget to have fun in the process. At the end of the day, it's important, man. We all are here. We all want to earn. We all want to do that. But have fun, man, and stay true to who you are. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Until next time, as always, you guys are the best. Peace.